game. They played Furia earlier on tonight and weren't successful in terms of the win, but there was really good elements, particularly to their defensive half, that I think they could try and translate on through. But they're going up against a bit of a different beast here. Whilst MIBR aren't at full force, they're still a team that you've got to show a lot of respect to. Still a very capable side. Fans start to come through now. Thatcher Nomad, Wamai, round things out with a Cade. So, we're actually seeing Valkyrie available. What honestly feels like for the first time tonight. I think she was available previously, but we don't typically see a lot of Val over on Club. But it was nice to have that as an option here, especially with the Nomad ban. It gives a little bit more freedom to those defenders.
Yeah, and Santos starting things off on defense. Looks like they're going to be straight away picking up that operator. You can see Hunter is present on her. And then looking at the side of MIBR. All right, there's going to be a 6 pick onto a Frost. Nice, fair enough. There's also going to be a 6 pick onto an IQ. That makes total sense, given that they can see, of course, that Valkyrie will be picked. And of course, to their knowledge, she could be 6 picked off of. It's still better to have the risk mitigation, I would say. Especially when you are in that kind of disadvantaged spot like MIBR are. As much as you can do to prevent extra information being had on you, it's probably better. And it's Philippox as well, so you can really focus him in on the intel gathering side of the IQ and actually using the gadget a lot more than necessarily requiring him to frag out.
I think that's the key for Philippox, isn't it? You've got to put him in that position that he can win, regardless of the sort of hardware that he's using. He needs to be enabled in that regard, and it seems to be what we're seeing happen here. Obviously, it is a tough task being on the IQ. There's a lot of areas that you're going to try and have to search out. So we'll have to see how this all shakes on down. He's going to be there removing a couple of bits of intel, default cams, etc.
Imagine getting rid of default cams.
Already, it's an improvement, isn't it? The guy's playing on a controller, he can still get rid of default cams.
It is wild. It is insane.
Take notes.
I love it. I love it already. MIBR for president. Well, you know, we're just being a little bit mean, but, you know, Santos, they're still doing some work on the site setup anyway. I think it was Rise upstairs who's going to be taking on that kind of spot that I always look to, which is, it could be Cons, I suppose, but in the closet is such a pivotal spot here for this site. Now, Lucid's just trying to hold on to this very narrow angle in through the solar window as they try and remove the ADSs down below. And there's the sound of the nade as Con's going to push up the stairs to look to catch out these players.
There's really no right or wrong way to play this for Cons. He's just got to try and keep himself alive for as long as possible and move within a very short parameter. Too far down, he'll be taken vertically from the player watching all the way inside a garage. Too far up, he'll be challenged from the window. It's a very difficult position to play in, and it requires a lot of precision. Cons is currently doing a great job here of not only eating up nades, but slowing this attacking push down. The presence and the threat of somebody coming up the stairs is always there, but as too is a grenade. It's taken plenty of them, but finally, MIBR are able to get the job done here. He sank all 4 grenades, I believe, into Cons, and they've managed to now gain that control. They can start to work from that rappel and start to get themselves in. Redux is going to be holding underneath as well, as Hunter is in a bit of a threatening position here. Does have a C4 below, so could look to try and deny a push as it comes through, or a plant if it does look to go down. MIBR really not home and dry just yet.
They do know about the position of Rise, because you could see on the drone, they could just catch the barrel of his gun that was sticking up. Gone for a bit of a rotate here, and finally MIBR making the push in. Well, tons of damage on both sides. Raps is the one who actually falls, but Hunter down to 1 HP. Rise very close to it as well as the attackers look to push in through the windows, but we're nearing the 10-second mark. They have to get aggressive.
Well, we're seeing Hoppins now. Redux, he's going to get himself in as well. Fouls He has the golden ticket, he has the diffuser, and his teammates, they have the cover. STK has to push on through, goes for a pre-fire, gets it wrong still, finds himself the down. How did he get through that rotation? Wasn't the cleanest rotate at all, but he managed to get away. The soft wall was his undoing, though, as he will be taken on down. MIBR there come away with an attacking round here.
Great opening round for MIBR. It did use a lot of their resources to clear out the solar stairs, but it was incredibly important that they did it the way that they did. You know, when you're coming in from that north side approach, you need to be sure that that space is cleared. It was after that that they could situate themselves on other windows, provide pressure from different directions, and act in. They sent Lukid in through that window and come in from that side as well. So even though it used a lot of resources for them, those resources were well spent, I think it's fair to say. And got a bit scrappy towards the end, but regardless, the important thing was the fact that the plant went down, and MIBR were in a position where they could successfully defend that plant. Opening round goes to them, and they will be, or rather Santos will be, looking to defend Bar this time. This was a site that last week when Bar was played, we spoke a lot about how many teams were looking to not necessarily go down the route of your typical Bar side attacks, you know, not looking to push the library corridor in the same way. There were a lot more lateral pushes that we saw. I wonder how orthodox MIBR's approach is going to be today.
I think Team 1 were a good example of that in the fact that they'd often take Garage first. And it did seem a little bit choice and a little bit unusual, but MIBR looking pretty good and looking very coordinated. I think that's the key takeaway from that previous round, so we'll see just how that translates through here. Lukid's going to getting himself up onto the rappel, and initially it looks like that library balcony is going to bear a brunt of this attacker pressure. Fleepox is going to be getting himself involved as well. Frost is basically a given for this site, especially when you're going to be looking to try and take library. So many awkward hop-ins, and the last place you want to be looking at is directly at the floor. You want your ADS up and ready to try and take challenges, so very powerful, and Hunter's going to try and lean into that and be that nuisance inside of the library. He will be getting droned out pretty quickly, but MIBR have got tools to try and make this a little bit easier to deal with. Got Capitao. That utility is going to fly in now. Hunter may be forced out of position. In fact, he's going to be forced to drop. He will take a couple of chip damage shots as he makes his way through, but library should be relatively clear now.
To me, it's another example of MIBR being rather methodical about where they're investing their utility. Even if it takes time, even if it takes a lot of what they have, they're being very sure about where it is they want to be clearing. In the last round, it was solar. In this round, it's library. And that's great. It means they have direction. It means they've got this leadership that's going on very well within the team. Even if they might be slightly stunted with their mechanical prowess, they have a really good way of going about this. Now, Rise takes a tiny bit of damage, and he can stay in the back store for now. That nade comes whirring in, wraps instead to get the opening kill onto Hunter.
Leapog's now going to be underneath, just trying to hold on into connector. Rise will be able to find a bit of success. SDK knows there's going to be somebody down there. Fleepog's going to try and take that challenge. SDK forced up the library stairs and instead going to try and challenge for that games room window. The drone's now going to be able to call him out. 35 seconds is all that stands between MIBR and another round here with Fleepox and Lukid popping off like that. Probably going to be a guarantee. Destiny with the swing. He had a couple of people to find there. Redux eventually lands the shots. F2 in that engagement is always going to be pretty superior, especially in the hands of someone as capable as Redux. MIBR 2 rounds in a row. This is starting to look a little bit like the MIBR of old that we know from last stage.
Yeah, I like it. It's looking clean. Santos just not really had a great defense against them at this point. And again, I don't even think it's because there is anything overtly wrong with the defense. It's just that when MIBR are really applying pressure to a specific point of it, you know, Santos, you can only withstand so much. And eventually they crumble. It gives MIBR the opening that they want. They find their in, and then they can overwhelm from within once they're finally there. Santos have decided to return upstairs to the master bedroom, which is where they went for round number 1. This is where they had Cons stationed on the solar stairs, and while he did a great job using the Toxic Babe canisters to deter Lucid from jumping in through the solar window and waste a lot of MIBR's time, ultimately MIBR were happy to invest what utility they needed in all of those nades to finally clear him out. Once that was done, they just positioned themselves on what windows they needed and overwhelmed. So I want to see how Santos are going to change things up here. Once again, they're bringing along the Frost and the Smoke. So those shields available, the Denial available. They do have the information that's coming from the Valkyrie. This time, MIBR don't, however, have an IQ.
I think the IQ was nice to have, but it didn't have too much of an impact, I don't believe, in terms of the way that the round went. Leapox this time going to be on the Zephyr. Could give them a little bit more pushing power, especially if they're going to try and deal with Cons in a similar way. Let's see if that is going to be the destined use. Although for the meantime, nobody initially on that solar side. Redut's actually going to be on balcony, so he could be in a position to make a rotation, but likely you would see a bit more of a concerted push. It's only really Lucid at the moment. Toxic Babe canister in hand from Cons as he's going to start that form of denial. Raps is already in piano, able to find a bit of success, and kind of regardless of your control of solar stairs, if you haven't got control of the site, it isn't really going to go too well for you, and looks to be the position that Santos are in. Cons is still pretty cut off here, but Lucid will be able to find him out as Cons was between a rock and a hard place. He had to try and do something. The rotation really wasn't it. Hunter and STK now trying to make that move, but they're not even on the same floor as the site. STK does have a C4, and he can look to open up some of these vertical angles. Hunter now going to be approaching into piano. So many engagements to try and take, and he can't even win the first one. Redux, what a round he's had. 2 kills has been found. A C4 is going to swing and miss. STK going to be desperately trying to play whack-a-mole here with these Z pings, but eventually he's going to get cut on down for Leapox. He finds that final frag. A flawless round there for MIBR. 3 clean rounds in a row.
I think you really well described what I was thinking at the end there, and that is that STK had to play with desperation. You know, having the presence below is great when you have the support above, but that wasn't the case by that point. And I actually wondered if him opening up the floor directly below the big window was a mistake, because maybe he could have used the hatch to throw to... Oh, I just realized, everyone, you only just come in. Hello, welcome to the basement. A lot of teams have really struggled to successfully defend this site, even if they think they have the advantage purely by the element of surprise. So I wonder how it's going to go. I mean, MIBR only have 1 hard breach, but it's Hibana who, if you play your cards right and you plan her really well and she stays alive for it, you can make a lot of holes with Hibana. You know, ever since she had the change where you can pretty much decide how many pellets you want to use. So getting the snowmobile door open as well as going down in through trench actually might not be a huge difficulty for them.
Redux going to be able to provide a bit of intel nice and early on there on the Inox. It's going to do something to assist this roam clear. Going to be able to find out there and just get a little bit of a track on, but it's not going to matter. Hunter there with the aggressive swing, going to be able to take down for Leapox. Unfortunate way to go, but Hunter obviously having that information. Valkyrie cameras potentially externally is going to be enough to give you that. He won't last though. Redux is going to be in a position to grab him out, and we are seeing Destiny trying to keep himself alive, but Rise comes to join in the party. This might be a downstairs objective, but everything is happening on the top floor, and the roam is being heavily contested here. So far, Santos, they're holding a good account of themselves up here. There are players that are now starting to drop down, and Lukid is in position to try and take advantage of that, but isn't really being given the opportunity just yet.
I like it because even if Santos are all downstairs at this point, they know that when MIBR eventually aggress onto them, they're not going to be able to outman them, you know? So it's a very big site downstairs. So they're still going to be spread rather thin if all three of these players make it down there to push. It gives Santos a lot more of an opportunity to actually hold the various avenues of entry into this site, which oftentimes is where many defensive teams fall in their objective, because they simply can't hold every single angle, and eventually the attackers make their way in.
Wilder's now going to be looking to get himself in through trench. He can try and open up that wall, but it will need a nade nicely bounced, which will be there. Mute jammer will be removed. The second one's going to be a little bit trickier. Impact trick attempted there by STK, but it was a little bit desperate. Lukid now going to have a bit of a line of sight to work with, and look at all the nades that are flying on through, forcing Cons out of position. STK finds himself down, wraps, he's in, and he's causing chaos. Bowser's going to be getting this plant down as the timer does tick down to 1, but it doesn't matter. Lukid, he's going to pick the final 2 kills up. Flashy stuff there from MIBR. A very quick, sharp execute.
Yeah, I guess it's added onto the list of times that teams have tried to defend on the basement and it hasn't worked. Which is unfortunate, because Santos actually had a really good start to that round. And I was really impressed with the way that went. But MIBR did not rest on their laurels at all when coming down, actually coming downstairs. Opened up the wall into wine. They went straight in with the nades, prepped the site as best they could, make it very difficult for Santos to be in the positions that they wanted to hold, and then they just forced themselves on them. Went straight in for the plant. Yeah, I mean, it was decisive. It was clean. It was not the early round that they were perhaps looking for, but ultimately that doesn't really matter.
I think that's the takeaway, isn't it? You know, it doesn't really matter how the round starts. It really matters how it ends. And Santos, that's kind of been the story of their night. You know, they've had rounds that have started off really well, and they've just struggled in that later part of the round, and they've just been punished a little bit too hard. That basement site could have quite easily worked for them if they'd have just rotated a little bit sooner, if they'd have been able to win the gunfights and maybe get a little bit more out of it. But ultimately, it wasn't meant to be. And they come back upstairs into Master and Office, a site where we've seen MIBR be successful previously. That kind of goes without saying when the scoreline is 4-0 MIBR.
Yeah, not looking good for Santos. Already suffered a loss today. It'd be pretty devastating to have 2 on the same day. But still, they haven't given up. And they could still get 2 rounds in here. Maybe. They've been to Master twice already and lost both of them. So, is it going to happen again? I'm just looking at what it is they brought. They didn't have the Mozzie before. No, they had the smoke. So they're not going for the double anchor as they have previously. Instead, I think they like that more fluid approach. It's what's been giving them better portions of rounds that we've seen. When they're happy to meet MIBR at their aggression, move around freely, it's worked much better for them.
MIBR trying to solve the problem of Cons again. This time Cons is going to be playing a little bit more off position. He's down at the bottom of Solarium stairs, in a position to try and get something happening. It is going to be Hunter, but he will be taken on down. Felipox catches him out. Cons, what a shot there! Is going to be able to down Felipox. Really looking to challenge that area of the map, the bottom of those Solarium stairs, in any way, shape or form, whether it be vertical or horizontal. He's now freed himself up to rotate up the stairs and is no longer being pressured too badly Does still have the trophy room window to contend with, though, and to keep in his mind. In the meantime, the kills are going to keep coming here for Santos.
Destiny doesn't want to step up to the window too much, just in case, but he is very close. Nice kill onto Raps, who sensed his presence and yet still fell for it. Cons trying to hold her onto the trophy window as well, as Falls is just outside. They're taking some time to drone once again. There is the kill onto not just Falls, but the diffuser. That's going to have to be recollected if MIBR want the chance to plant, but it's just Lukid on his own. He's got not many options here. Whips out the nade. Maybe he can clear out his aggressor with that. But instead, it looks like he may get jumped out on soon. Yeah. STK just shoots straight through the barrier. Doesn't even properly jump out. And finally, Santos put their first round on the board.
Well, that's going to feel good for Santos. They made some changes there. They made some adaptations, and they worked out quite well for them. Con's being able to deal with Philippox and free himself up from being pinched on both sides. Those solarium stairs was a big little win and a nice bit of adaptation that we saw. And then mainly just gunfights going in the favor of Santos. They did a much better job there of contesting. MIBR maybe just getting a little bit too predictable. I doubt MIBR were going to be too concerned. They've still got a very good advantage here. But for Santos, it is something, and it's something that they desperately needed. Still the chance to come out at a 2-4 split, and although that isn't ideal, it's much better than a 6-0, which was still on the cards as of last round. Downstairs now into kitchen we go for Santos. See what they've got for us.
Just having a look. So they're back to the double anchor, which is the thing that they decided to change away from when returning to the master defense. Of course, this is a different site. The likelihood is Santos are going to have to be watching more than one floor here, as a lot of attackers will choose to attack onto the top floor before going down onto the bottom. Now, I wonder if that shock drone is going to stay where it is and just play as some kind of flank drone, but if it is, then it means that MIBR are watching closely to see if Santos are going to be sending anyone down through the basement for either rotates or just simply a roam. You know, they have one C4 player, so they want to be remaining vigilant.
I mean, Lukid wasn't very vigilant on his approach there. Gets himself straight in and already heavily challenged. Oh, a glimpse for STK. Just as he was turning his head, it's not going to be enough. He won't get the kill. Lukid gets chipped down, but gets a little bit of a haircut. Santos still looking to try and contend here. They're not giving up on this extension upstairs. They've got the laser gates there as well. That's going to give them a little bit more bite and a little bit more staying power when the push really does start to see a bit of pressure. Destiny inside a piano for a time is going to be able to just get himself onto some cams, figure out a bit of intel for himself. Much slower around here from MIBR. It seems as though they're really trying to problem solve this one out. They haven't made any significant inroads just yet.
Pinging out the shield, Destiny actually takes the opportunity to push up a bit more aggressively, perhaps anticipating an aggressive push onto him himself. Not yet come, however, as the Gon 6 to be used onto the Surya gate. So this is all to prep MIBR being able to push up and move on forward on the top floor, which they want to be taking control of before they even set their sights onto what's below. Nade's going to be eaten up by the ADS, but the second one is not. Shield's still standing. Man, that needed so many nades. Destiny gets the kill for it anyway, and he has to be watching out what's going on the bathroom.
Destiny's doing a great job of staying alive here, and it's all eating up so much time and utility. Still hasn't been dealt with. Lukid's getting tempted for a hop in. You can just see by the way that he's angling the crosshair. He's going to go for it. He's going to get shut down as well. Oh, everyone from the side of MIBR is just going one at a time here, and it really isn't working. Santos still at full strength. Felipox could be the next player to hop on through, but even he can't find the frag. STK going to pick one up in the meantime. Fouls on the upside down repel. 10 seconds left in a 1v5. Just save the KD. He's likely going to get run out on or something. Santos, they're going to welcome in a 2-4 split here in what has been a pretty rough start to the game that they've made taste a hell of a lot better in the last 2 rounds.
You know, back in round 1, I commended MIBR's use of the nades and the dedication to it to clear out cons from the solar stairs. However, seeing them use 4 nades on piano was kind of crazy. The first one was to clear the ADS. That should have been cleared by something else. The second one didn't actually get rid of the shield. The third one got rid of the shield. And then I think the fourth was to try and push Destiny out of position, but it didn't actually work. So, like, that's a lot. That is a lot. To try and clear out piano where, you know, Santos weren't even kind of offering themselves up. That is maybe a situation where I would have liked to have seen MIBR be a bit more stringent on having a presence on Big Window, because they didn't, and that is where they maybe would have needed it, whereas in the past they've found taking piano control much easier and therefore didn't need Big Window. And, like, the entire site is below at this point. You're not even at the point where you're breaching onto the site or going in for a plant. They were stumped.
Yeah, Big Window is a thing, and it exists, as does Office. Like, there are other options, and MIBR just didn't seem to be using them. It was almost as if they got a little bit funneled and a bit tunnel-visioned. Still, I think they're going to be fairly happy with that. And if Game 1 is anything to judge Santos's attack performance by as a recent benchmark, Santos have struggled on the attack today. They've really struggled with that coordination. Galia is a map that, as we've seen in that last round from MIBR with their lack of nade coordination, it requires a lot of coordination. And they're going to have to work pretty hard here to try and bring this back now. I'm already a little bit nervous. Rise is on the Amaru, and he's going to get himself straight into sight. This is one of those situations where it's like, now what? There's a clash and Raps is going to shut you down. The plant, though, is going to be going down as the distraction was sufficient. And in fact, Destiny and Hunter have been able to move through and take a lot of ground. So maybe the sacrifice was worth it. Luke, what a run out there as he's able to take down STK. The kills really coming on in now. Hunter, he's going to be getting clashed out and swung by Redux. Cons, how many kills can you find? How much pressure can you withstand? The answer, not a great deal. Felipox is going to pick the final kill, and he's going to have plenty of time to disable that diffuser. Strange rush round from Santos.
Yeah, what a round that was. And I mean, actually, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, it was Santos who, for their first attacking round against Furia earlier on Consulate, also went for a rush.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Down onto the garage. So maybe that's just their thing now.
This is just like, what we do now. We just rush.
Their first round for every attacking half is always going to be a rush. Sure. Possibly. It actually worked against Furia. That's the thing. They actually won that round. But alas, this one was not to be. I appreciate the attempt. It was certainly a way. We talk a lot about how when you're attacking onto the master site, you oftentimes either come in through Solarium side or you come in through Office side. This time, they went neither. They just went straight down the middle, which I can appreciate because it's, if nothing, unique.
Well, it certainly was a unique approach. I think sending cons through as the bait and the distraction, and then the plant coming down, it was quite nice, and it was obviously well rehearsed, so it made sense. But yeah, on the face of it, it's just a little bit of a throwaway, especially when that puts MIBR 5 rounds to 2. You know, the game wasn't. They didn't have a huge margin. It was only a couple of rounds, and that's something that you can bring back. But Now you start thinking about bringing 3 rounds back, the momentum that MIBR are going to get if they get onto round 6. Like, maybe better times to go for that rush. I think they maybe should start doing it if they start on the attack, Gio. That might be a better strat. Yeah,
maybe so. Oh, yeah, when they don't already have a precedent of having very few rounds. That sounds like a solid shout. Well, I don't know. Let's see how it goes as they attack here onto Bar. Just having a look at what they have once again. Ashe and Zafir. Not the first time we've seen both an Ashe and Zafir together today, but it almost feels like a shiny Pokemon. Reduct, the first one to fall at Destiny's hands. So, buy mute. I guess that means buy to a C4, but I'd argue there are probably worse operator or better operators you could have gotten rid of early.
Still, Reduct is certainly present and correct in the kill department of things, and it's going to hinder MIBR somewhat. A nice angle being able to be held by Destiny there. He's going to give himself away on the alibi briefly, but it's not going to matter for the chip damage he's able to put in onto Lukid. Leapok's playing the shield at the top of Library Stairs. He's going to be assisted by Lukid as he's in and around the fireplace and just outside a library area. SDK now trying to gather a little bit of intel. Removes said laser gate. Santos can start to make a little bit of a approach toward this utility. There is just so much to deal with. They've got the laser gate to deal with. They've got shields. Guess they can just be thankful that there's no ADSs or WAMIs.
There is that, and I think that means that for Leapox, as soon as pressure starts to be applied on him, he's going to have to be a lot quicker to react to it. There's the shield that was protecting him gone. Now, he was still hovering around on the library stairs, but honestly, I don't assume that will last for a long time, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's simply waiting for someone to jump in through this window. So he continues to hold on to that position, but without that protection from the projectiles, stuff like that's going to happen. It wasn't the nade that actually killed him, but it forced him out of the position that allowed Cons to get the kill.
Well, Files is having to fight his way through out of back storage now. He's in a world of hurt and he's drawn for the shorty, but his teammates, they have his back. Raps and Lukid are going to be able to step up when it matters the most. STK going to be left out in the cold. Unlikely to make his way on through. Probably going to find an exit frag. Honestly, in 6 seconds, I really doubt he's going to be able to do all too much. Raps with the swing there. The ever-present and solid anchor. And some live pings to be working with. Maybe even a default cam there, Gio, that was still up.
Oh, no.
I'm only joking. I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility.
Okay.
It would make sense.
Well, we can hope that that was not the case. But I mean, regardless, MIBR find themselves on match point for the first time ever. And by ever, I mean this stage. They have had a exceptionally tough stage, and this would not only be their first win if they take this next round, but such a decisive one as well. If Santos walk away from this with only 2 rounds, that is huge for MIBR, who, while, you know, their player for Leapox is still playing on a controller, they have looked very well coordinated. They've looked like their communication is very good. I think that's what I will say is, even when they've made mistakes, you can still see the intentions that led to those mistakes. And that's a really important thing to note, in my opinion, because it suggests that the communication is really fluid, it's really clear. Everybody on MIBR knows what page they are supposed to be on, and they are acting on that page. Now, it could turn out that the book is the wrong instruction manual, but it doesn't mean that they're not following the instructions within it.
Yeah, I think that they're certainly not a fluke, and that's one way of putting it. You know, they're not lucky in that regard, and I don't mean the caster.
No, I was going to say, she's only UL.
It is just one of those things that they're not that sort of fly by the seat of their pants team. They've got a very clear idea, and it's very methodical. It's a word you've used quite regularly to describe them. I've been told by producer Simon that we've got like quite an extravagant graphics display if MIBR actually get a win this stage. So everyone in the chat look forward to seeing that. As producer Simon now scrambles to throw something together, and we get like the equivalent of one person blowing a party streamer or something. But nevertheless, jokes aside, this is the chance here for MIBR to actually get a win, to make something happen and potentially start a miracle run that could end with them getting themselves into Open Elite 6. Only time will tell. The next 2 minutes is going to hold the answer, at least for the first time in this round.
I just want to say I got excited when you mentioned the graphic, and it was only when producer Simon got a little bit angry in the headset that I realized that it was all a ruse. But anyway, MIBR, yeah, close to maybe making this miracle push into Copa Elite 6. They can either take the spot off of Furia or Black Dragons, who are currently sitting in the top 6, but not yet confirmed qualified for the event. They've got a lot of work cut out to do it. Now, Santos are finally making their way in. Nice kill on the default cam. We appreciate it. Now, interesting how they've placed that mirror window on the master wall so that it's all stopped entirely around it, not just to the side, but above as well. Fleetbox takes a tiny bit of damage as the nade comes sailing in, but not enough to deter him from his spot. But it is enough to make it quite hard for Santos to push on through. They tried to go in for the X-Kairos pellets because that is a classic way of opening up a mirror window, but with them being shot off the wall, they're going to have to try again.
Well, Hibana's going to have multiple attempts at getting that done. Oh, what a push in through from Hunter. Nobody expected him to be there. Least of all, Felipox. To find himself 1 for 3. Could really be the key to unlocking this top floor. He should be able to allow Rise to get himself on through as well. Foul's next player to fall at Hatch. Very punishing. Rise will be taken on out, so at least the skeleton key isn't going to be a factor here. Despite Santos' success, they've still got a job to do, and with the diffuser being cold on the site, it could be just about to get a lot more difficult. Lukid, he's going to be able to find a frag over onto Destiny. It's now a 2 versus 1. Hunter, you got 3 seconds, and you've got it all to do. Raps finds the final 2. MIBR, they do it for the first time here in Stage 2. They take a win.
Oh my goodness. I love how you announce it as if it's the SI Grand Finals and, you know, they just did the most incredible thing ever. But I am really happy to see MIBR finally get their first win. They've struggled so much in this stage. And while it is definitely heartbreaking for Santos to have had 2 losses on the same day, I just think this win must mean so much to MIBR. And everything that you were hypothesizing about the day